Well, we are starting this year on the high side of spending. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Justin. I make regular videos where I go through some aspect of my budgeting process. This video is going to be a look back on my January 2026 spending, income, and then also look at my goals and kind of see where I'm at relative to my budget. So on average, my bills are pretty standard, pretty bare bones. On average, I usually spend somewhere around $3,000. As you can see, I've spent well over that. The majority of that is gonna be because of my rent. Um, if this is the first video you're watching, I recently moved across town, and I kind of covered 2 apartments for the month of January. And so, as you can see, that is why my rent is as high as it was. So, my normal rent or my old rent was about $1,900 a month. As you can see, I spent almost twice that, a little over twice that. And that is because I paid on the first my rent for my old apartment for January. And then about 2 weeks later, I paid my rent and fees for my new apartment. Um, so that, like I said, is going to be the bulk of my spending in January. Rent is the bulk of my spending in every month. I am rent heavy only because like I said, have a pretty bare bones budget that works for me. So the next highest expense was groceries. I budget $200 every month. I don't always spend $200. Uh, Normally, I find myself with about a week or so, a little over a week of extra groceries that I roll over into the new month. So sometimes I'll spend a little bit less. Sometimes I will spend right up to that $200. It just depends on really how much dining out I do. I grocery shop for a certain amount of meals per day, and sometimes I don't eat all those meals every day, and also sometimes those meals are dining out meals. So in January, it was a little bit less than I'm used to spending, $186. Pet meds, this is since November of last year, is a normal expense for me now. Um, but the reason it's a little bit higher is because I had to purchase 2 of his 3 pills twice in January. So, um, the first couple months of giving him his meds, I was getting his prescriptions refilled every couple weeks. And then I was working with my vet to kind of get all of his prescriptions on the same refill cycle. And it took a few refill cycles to get that where it needs to be. Fortunately, he is now on all of his meds are on the same cycle. And that is these 2 purchases on the 20th. So these are 60-day refill amounts. So every 2 months should be about 150, give or take. So I will probably be exploring something like Chewy Pharmacy. I know that I can get these pills um, for a fraction of what it costs for me to get them at the clinic at his vet and CVS. So um, the only thing is my vet doesn't work directly with Chewy, and so I would have to mail in his prescriptions. Um, and I don't, the logistics of that, I'm not sure how that works with refills when you're getting really low on count, but you don't have any approved refills. Like it can take time to mail things, get them processed. So I'm just worried that, um, I'm just worried that if I go that route, it may cause him to run out of his meds, and then I'll just have to end up getting him at the vet anyways. So we'll see how that goes in the next couple months, but that's definitely something I'm considering to save money on his meds because they are expensive. Uh, Home furnishings, I purchased a TV stand. Uh, in my old apartment, my TV was mounted on the wall. It's really a two-person job to get the TV up there and get it off of the mount, given how big the TV is and how heavy it is. So I elected when I moved into this new apartment to get a ground level TV stand. And so that's what this is. Just a standard, you know, I think it's a 2 foot tall, 6 cubby TV stand for $150 at Walmart. Car insurance, pretty standard, about 140, between 135 and 140 every month. Fubo TV, January was I think January was the last month that I'm paying for that. So that's already been canceled. Dining out, a little bit higher than normal. I think I try to be around $50 to $75. January, certainly towards the end of the month, was a pretty heavy dining out uh, experience. As you can see, Panda Express kind of took the gold 3 times in the month. Panda Express is like my go-to. Although the Panda Express that's new or by my new apartment absolutely sucks. So I may have to find a new regular um, dining out experience. But the dining out, this is something that I budget for every paycheck. I set aside $50 every paycheck, like clockwork, because I prioritize being able to go to a restaurant and eat if I want to. So all of my dining out is funded. None of it is, well, going to the restaurant might be on a whim, but having to figure out how to fund it is no longer a problem because um, I set that money aside every paycheck to have money to do that. Internet, I also canceled this. So this $90 in January is the last I'm paying for internet separately. Internet and cable are included in my technology fee that I pay every month, $165. So as you can see, the Fubo TV and internet that I was paying separately at my old apartment is already more than what I'm getting here. So I'm saving a little bit of money in that respect, which I'm happy about. Dog food, $81. His dog food, I have to order it on average every 3 weeks. It used to be every month, so I used to only have to purchase it once a month, but the last couple months I upped the amount of food I give him each meal, which has obviously cut into the longevity of the box of dog food that I get. So $81. There are some months where I have to buy it twice, which is why I think last month I changed the way I started budgeting for it. Instead of setting aside a little bit every paycheck, um, I am now setting aside the full amount with the paycheck immediately following when I purchase his dog food. That way it's already ready and teed up for the next time I need to purchase it. Cell phone. This has been my cell phone bill for quite a while, $75. I think I've been with AT&T for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Um, Verizon, I was paying like $120. I get essentially the same stuff for $75. So this may increase moving forward. My phone is starting, well, it is obsolete at this point. The software version that's on my phone is a couple years old. My phone is so old that they don't push software updates to it anymore. And apps that I use on a regular basis, to include financial apps, have stopped supporting the software version that my phone has, which means I can't use those apps at all on my phone. Most of my financial stuff I do outside of recording these videos on YNAB. I do most of my financial logins and stuff on my phone. That way it's less likely for me to get, hacked or anything like that. Um, the main reason I got the VPN was to help with that. A couple months ago, I started paying for a VPN, but I still only do my financial stuff on my phone. Transferring money, looking at my bank accounts, paying bills. I do I do all of that on my phone. So a phone is pretty important for me um, in that regard. So this may go up in March, probably around $110 or so. At least until I pay off the phone, whichever phone I get, and then it'll probably just go right back down to the $75. Discretionary, $72. So I I had been eyeing a cart, like a wheeled cart, for a very long time. When I grocery shop for a full month. And to take 4 or 5 trips back and forth to the car uh, was cumbersome, annoying. In the summer, it's, you know, extremely difficult to do. So I decided to buy a cart, um, which makes it only a 2 trip job, instead of a 4 or 5. So that's the reason I got that. And then because I was moving, I had to do a change of address, which they charge $1.25 for, which is dumb. Anyways, what else? Storage. This is just a routine bill of mine. Half of my stuff is still in a storage unit in Oregon. It's been up there for 4 years. Obviously, it's not important stuff or things I need on a regular basis. Um, at some point, I'd like to get all of that stuff and move it down here. That way, it's more local. In case I do a big move, I don't have to logistically figure out how I'm going to move things from 2 different states. But for the time being, I'm just paying the $72 to store that. Clothing, this was the jacket. So in January, I had budgeted $200 to find a jacket. Uh, um, the jacket that I've been using for probably close to 10 years now is starting to fall apart. The pockets don't have a base anymore. You can just like stick your hands through them. The zippers don't work, so it was time to get a new jacket. I was very, I'm very particular about my jacket. Um, and so it took me a while to find the right one, but eventually, after several hours and several stores, I found the perfect one. Sort of perfect. It's a little bit too big. I'm hoping that over time it shrinks a little bit with a couple more washes, but um, it was on sale. I use air quotes because they told me it wasn't really on sale. They just had it in the wrong spot. Um, that's the main reason I purchased it, was because it was $40 off. Well, 40% off, but it was almost $100, so $40. Um, so yeah, that jacket, I will have that probably for the next 10 years, and then I'll get another one in 10 years from now. Power, January was just my power bill for my old apartment. So that was about $60. In February, my I will be paying kind of the residual leftover of my old apartment plus my new apartment. So my power might be a little bit more than what I'm used to spending in the winter, but probably not significantly higher. Um, so we'll see. Moving forward, though, uh, I think my power bills are going to be significantly higher than what I'm used to because it's a new company and they overcharge um, a lot. There's been news reporting of 30 to 40, somewhere between 40 and 50% at times where they overcharge compared to the other service provider out here. Um, Unfortunately, I don't get a choice as to which provider I use. So there's that. Moving fees in January, this was just the application fee for my new apartment. That was $50. I had to buy for the dog some pill pockets. I also got a pill splitter. I was tired of using a knife and cutting it by hand. So I got a pill splitter. It makes for splitting pills very easy and quick compared to using a knife. Um, I had to get gas. I filled up my tank once in January, $33 to do that. And then Cursor, YouTube TV, VPN, Spotify, Ring, and Netflix. These are my standard subscription based bills that I have every month. So those are pretty standard across the board. And that is pretty much all of my spending in January, $5,606. Like I said, pretty high compared to my standard normal month spending, but most of that was because of my move and paying for rent in 2 apartments. Um, I set aside in January um, just under $1,800 for pet emergencies. My goal is to get $3,000 as a starter. So about halfway there, a little over halfway there. Um, that is the only savings that I've set aside this year so far, in the month of January. I'm hoping in the next couple months I will be able to pick that up, but we'll see. My net worth, actually, let's go over my income. So my income was $5,519. Um, that came in a couple different ways. I am a W 2 9 to 5 worker, so I get bi-weekly paychecks. In January, I got 2 paychecks for $3,800. I also got the last $1,200 for my GI Bill. This $1,200, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know that that was going to be coming my way until I got my printout of my payments. But I guess when I joined the military back in 2008, I paid $1,200 somehow to start my GI Bill. And so they were giving that back to me. I guess once you use all of your benefits, you get that money back. So that was the $1,200 that I gave them, um, gosh, 16 years ago at this point. So really cool that I got that back. It would have been nice if I got interest on that for the 16 years, but federal government doesn't do that. Um, Interest and cashback, I got just under $35 in interest. My savings accounts are starting to really grow, so I'm starting to get a pretty decent amount of interest. Certainly, my emergency fund over $10,000 is starting to accumulate interest pretty rapidly, so I'm happy about that. And I got my state tax return in January. My federal tax return didn't come until February, so we'll see that in the February review. But I'm still trying to figure out how to get this lower. I thought I had it dialed in, but apparently I didn't. So I created a spreadsheet to kind of track my tax allocations relative to my taxable income and my tax brackets so that hopefully 3/4 of the way through the year, I can gauge where I'm at and I can go exempt on federal taxes so that I can kind of balance out to zero, or do an adjustment, like a minor adjustment, and then certainly do a percentage change on my state taxes to try to get my numbers closer to zero. That is my goal. Actually, my goal would be to be owing a few dollars. It'd be nice to owe instead of have to get a refund and wait for that money to come back. I'd rather just owe a couple dollars, make that payment right away, and be done with it, as opposed to having to wait, a couple weeks for my money to come back to me. So again, that was all of my income for the month. And now for my net worth. My net worth in January was just under 60,000. Remember, I think I started somewhere around 55, 57,000, somewhere around there. So it's a little up. My goal is to get 75,000 by the end of the year. So we'll see how that pans out. That is not a goal I'm going to be tracking very closely. It's just one of those targets that I'd like to have by the end of the year. It'll be close. Last time I projected this out, it's going to be close. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, that is pretty much how my January budget went. Overall, I'm pretty happy. I kind of wish I didn't spend as much money as I did on rent, but in order to get the free rent credit, I needed to get my lease signed by the end of January. And the cheapest base rent was the middle of the month. So it was worth it to me. It ended up working out great, I think, because the complex accidentally added an additional 2-month free credit on my account. So instead of getting just 2 months free, I got 4 months. So we'll see how that pans out, whether or not they come back for that money or if that money they just never notice. But I am setting that money aside, as you saw in my video last week. That money is being set aside just in case they do come back and ask for it. But if they don't, I will convert it to savings, which will help me, I think, on my quest for $75,000 net worth, and then also getting ahead on some other savings goals that I have in mind that I didn't think I'd be able to get completed in 2026. So I will see you in my next video.